one, your cost per lead drops over time, which is a huge business benefit. But then two, it's just a very helpful way of doing marketing because you're building brand and trust and likability by doing marketing. Hey, and welcome back to Builder Funnel TV. In today's video, we're going to talk about a question I get asked all the time, and that is, how long does inbound marketing take? So before we get to that piece of the question, just want to do a quick recap on defining inbound marketing, because I think there is some confusion around that terminology, what it means, and what it actually looks like when you play that out. So inbound marketing is really the process of pulling people in to your company that are actively out there seeking and searching for something. So typically it starts with a Google search. So an example of how this plays out is you write a blog post called "How much does it cost to remodel my kitchen in Denver in 2021?" So you write an article, you kind of explain how much it generally costs. Then you have this pool of people out there, and they're all going to Google and they're typing in questions and they're looking to do a remodel. So sometimes they type the question in, how much does it cost to remodel my kitchen in Denver? Very similar question, and they find your blog post. So now they're on your site and you've gained awareness. So this is the whole premise of inbound marketing is, hey, you're out there creating content, you're educating, you're answering questions, and we know there's a whole bunch of your audience that's out there searching. They're searching for answers, they're searching for companies, they're searching for solutions. And so as you create that content, and as they search, Google matches you up or social media matches you up, and now you've created some awareness with a prospect that previously had no idea about you. So that's the whole concept. Now you can start to build a relationship kind of behind the scenes. They're consuming your content, they're getting to know you. You can get them on a newsletter list, capture kind of some basic info, and stay in touch with them. So that's the general overview of the whole premise of inbound marketing. And so a lot of people have that second question, which is, okay, well, how long does this kind of strategy take before I actually start seeing some results? You know, how long do I have to create content for before I start getting found by these people out there that are researching? And so the answer is generally you're going to be looking at about 9 to 15 months in terms of that window where you really start feeling the effects of inbound marketing. Now, are you going to see some wins sooner than 9 months? Yes. Typically, if you're focused on working on your conversion rate, so maybe previously you had never focused on capturing researchers, people that are maybe 3, 6, 9 months away from actually being ready to do a project. Well, now if you start implementing inbound marketing and you create a remodeling design guide or a pricing guide on your website and you put it on all of your blog content, as people hit your site, they'll start downloading that and you'll start to see more people convert on your site. So you'll capture more names and more emails, building kind of this prospect database. So that you can usually start to see a nice uptick in the first few months, because if you haven't implemented that strategy or worked on optimizing that strategy, you're now capturing people that you just previously didn't have the ability to capture. So they were hitting your site already, you just weren't capturing them. So that's an area that you'll see improvement. And you'll also see some traffic growth in that first, 3, 6, 9 months. And you'll also see, improved ranking in the search engine. So maybe you were just buried in the first several pages of Google for lots of different terms. Well, you're going to start moving up for some of those terms, but you might still be, page 3, page 2, you might start hitting the bottom of page 1 for some of those terms. So you will see increased ranking along the way. And then some of that will lead to an increase in traffic. Generally around that, 9 to 15 months. I say that because some people will start to really get some good results before a year, but some people it's just after a year. You've committed to this process and you're kind of entering year 2, and then you really start to feel it. And that's when you get the compounding effects of you've increased and improved your conversion rate. So as your traffic grows, you're starting to see lead flow rise, but then your traffic really starts to kick in because you start hitting page 1, certain terms are maybe hitting, spot 1, 2, 3, or 4. So you're getting more traffic from some of those terms, and you start to see that really start to take off. And so you get that kind of multiplier effect on traffic growth is rising more significantly, and you've improved your conversion rate. So then the lead multiplier is pretty strong, and then you're feeling that in terms of the calls, the contact us, the schedule a consultation or schedule a call type of requests. And then it starts to trickle down into, okay, now I'm having more meetings, I'm closing more jobs. And so that is a good time frame to have in mind. Honestly though, I like people to have kind of that 2, 3, 4, 5-year time horizon in mind when you start this process, because it's not something you can just turn off and then turn on and then turn off and then turn on. You have to be very consistent, because Google's looking at all the sites, and all the sites, if you have an active site, you're consistently producing, then you're consistently chipping away and you're making improvements. But if you kind of go dormant for a while, then you start to fall a little bit. And so you'll just kind of tread water, which really is moving, nowhere and doesn't do you a lot of good. So I would say have that long-term perspective in mind, and you may go through times where you're more aggressive or less aggressive, but you still have to be consistent in, production of content and keeping a certain cadence to, improving your website and adding new content into the fold. So super important that you have that in mind, but obviously we're looking for wins along the way. The other thing to note here is that generally this strategy will be, more time intensive upfront, because it's all new. You're having to kind of shift gears in the way you think about marketing, and it takes a lot of effort to get it up and running. And then as you get it up and running, you can keep it moving a lot easier. So it's kind of like, the merry-go-round, where at the beginning you kind of have to put a lot of effort, and then you can kind of just keep, pushing it and pushing it. And what you see is your cost per lead starts to drop over time. And that's because you can do basically for a similar amount of effort, or sometimes a little bit of an increased effort in terms of how much content you're creating, your past content is now compounding with your new content. So you see your traffic levels will go up and up and up and up, even though your spend or your activity is relatively flat or slightly increased. So going into year 2, year 3, year 4, you might be producing 3x the leads, 5x the leads, maybe even 10x if you fast forward, several years down the road. But your spend and what you're putting into it is very similar or slightly increased. So you'll see a nice decrease in cost per lead, whereas things like Google Ads or certain outbound paid advertising strategies, maybe those costs go up over time, but basically what you get is very similar. So your cost per lead is going to stay pretty high. And so that's one of the reasons we love inbound marketing is, one, your cost per lead drops over time, which is a huge business benefit. But then 2, it's just a very helpful way of doing marketing, because you're building brand and trust and likability by doing marketing. So you're educating people, you're creating helpful content, you're answering questions, you're drawing people in, and that's how you start to build trust pre-sales process. So hopefully this answered your question in terms of how long does this actually take? And the short answer is about 9 to 15 months, but you'll see some wins before that, and then you'll see some great wins after the fact. All right, guys, that's what I got for you today. See you next week on Builder Funnel TV.